And hello, good people of the internet. It is I, Tommy Kelly, and this is Adventures in Woo. In this episode, I want to talk a bit around the kind of notion of always looking for the advantage when in a given situation from a reality transurfing point of view. But before that, I just want to mention just a thank you to everyone who has purchased the Pay What You Want bundle, the Corona bundle that I've released this week. It has the digital stuff for the 47, so you get a PDF of the Grimoire, a digital deck, which is a printable, printable files of the deck if you want. There's a few other bits and pieces. Also, all my comics in a digital format, and some music. So people have been very generous with their money, basically, to pay for all of that, and it'll be on sale as a bundle until the current apocalypse is over. The last time I was kind of talking about the apocalypse in any way full was about a week ago, where I was saying that there was new lockdown measures here in Ireland, and that we weren't able to go out with our household or with my wife and stuff. And it was the next day, it kind of the wording got a bit more clarified, and we are allowed out, of course, with people from the household and stuff. But as far as I can gather, people in Italy and Spain are definitely not allowed out. Even with people in their household, you're only allowed out one at a time. Unless you've kids, and then if you've kids, you're allowed one adult per kid or something like that. I'm not quite sure. And then I seen on Reddit this morning that they're talking about in the UK about banning all exercise altogether outside because people are just taking advantage of it to not go out and exercise, but to go out and sit in the sun with their mates. Which, what can you do? People are going to people no matter what, and it's just that's it. But I think it seems a bit unfair. Well, it's not seems a bit unfair. It is tremendously unfair for the people who have been following the kind of things, the rules and all that, to then kind of get punished because of other people. But that's society. That's the way we live in. I know it would make a huge impact on me if I wasn't allowed out at all. That 20 minutes a day is certainly the thing that makes me sane, or keeps me sane within this kind of whatever this is that's going on. So hopefully now that'll not happen in Ireland. And from what I can gather, I try to not pay as much attention to any of the figures and stuff like that, just because you can just become obsessed with it, and instead look to the things that I have control over. But the last time I kind of looked, it seemed more positive, and it was going in the right direction and things like that. And then you have talk and people kind of mentioning that there seems to be a change in the mood of some of the newspapers and media outlets now, that it looks like they're going into a new kind of cycle of as if it's coming to the end. But it all depends where you're looking, of course, because that's say Irish media or European media, but like America's definitely or the United States is very in a different place, and and Italy's and Spain are ahead of Ireland and stuff. So depending on where you are and kind of the cycle of there's definitely the States is where we were 2 weeks ago and stuff, although it has seems to have not necessarily worsened, because I don't know what way the statistics actually work out, because the population obviously of the United States is much greater than Ireland, that it may seem to have way more deaths or cases, whatever, but in fact it's the same statistically. Anyway, I'm out of my wheelhouse in that. I don't really know. But it's hard to know. I'm still positive about the future. I'm still positive that this is ultimately could be a good thing. Which leads me to what I actually want to talk about, which is seeing the advantage. In Reality Transurfing, which is a book, if you don't know, or well, it's a philosophy, but it's mostly a book by a Russian guy called Vadim Zeland. And it's essentially a kind of positive thinking, new thought, law of attraction type stuff, but it's quite good. It's not as Oprah or kind of new agey as it sounds. It's like the aesthetics are different, but they have some amazing kind of ideas in it. Pendulums alone makes Reality Transurfing a book worth reading, which is just the idea of how, I suppose, you get sucked into the energy of certain situations or groups or ideas, and that they seem to have their own kind of current or their own kind of energy and stuff like that. I have talked about it a number of times at Spud on the podcast, and I possibly will do. I'm sure I will do an actual video on it sometime. But another one of the ideas that they have in it is this: always look for the advantage. So no matter what kind of terribleness you find yourself in, the kind of way out of it, or one way out of it, or one way to kind of remain in a sense positive or feel like you have in control, or to not kind of waste the situation, I suppose, is another thing, is to look for what is the advantage in this situation. And it gets your mind thinking in a different way than you normally would, because when you're within a kind of a desperate time or a dark time, you don't mostly think, oh, well, how is this to my advantage? You're always thinking, this is to my disadvantage, this is terrible, look what's going on, I'm never going to get out of it, the world's a terrible place, whatever it is, depending on, the actual thing that's going on. So say like the pandemic now and you're locked at home and stuff like that, and you could very much have a negative view on it, and understandably so. But if you ask yourself the question, what is the advantage here? You could probably find an awful lot of advantages to the current situation or to any situation. For me, of course, the current or the advantage in where I am now is that I can continue doing what I'm doing. I can put more effort into different things. Like say when the Game Crafter shut down, wasn't making any more decks, so that was a revenue stream that was gone for me for a while. And then Amazon slowed down with the books as well. So again, the things I had relied on. I said, well, what's the advantage here? Well, the advantage here is that one area is kind of going apart or going away for a while, but I have all these other things, so there's still a kind of a demand for what I'm doing, but I just have to present it in a different way. So I could have, and did for about a day, is kind of feel bad about it and go, oh, it's all falling apart, life's terrible, and this is going to ruin everything. And then instead put my focus on, well, what can I do about it? What's the advantage? What can I do? And then, of course, release the Corona bundle. Now, I know that not everyone is in the situation that I'm in, and not everyone is able to kind of switch things around in the same way. Like, if you are a hairdresser, you just, there's no advantage. You can't go and cut people's hair because you're not allowed to go and cut people's hair, or whatever the kind of thing is. But it's still the kind of focus is to put on, well, what is the advantage of the overall situation? And I don't know if you're a hairdresser, what your advantage could be, but to look at it. If nothing else, it gives you a different kind of perspective and a different view on how or what is going on around you at the minute. So I find it quite helpful, and it's something I have to kind of force myself to remember, because it's, you can get sucked into the whole kind of, it's not more than drama, but the whole kind of dealing with the bad situation. And I don't necessarily mean like, oh, you are a victim of circumstance many times, and it's the kind of, while allow the kind of acknowledgement of that, to not let it go so far that you feel that you're completely out of control, and looking for your advantage in the situation can give you a kind of a sense of control and a bit more handle on it, or you indeed might come up with a new way of doing stuff. Because I think going into the future, whatever it is, that we're all going to try to have to be a bit more anti-fragile in our lives. Anti-fragile is coming from the Nassim Taleb book, Anti-Fragile, and it's that which gains from disorder. So we have this kind of thing of fragile, which means that it's weak and it's easily broken. And his idea of anti-fragile is not something that's the opposite of that, which is, sturdy or hard to break, but something that actually gains or becomes more powerful the worse things go on. A kind of opposite of fragile in that it's easily broke. It's not. It gains momentum or energy or power or money or whatever it is from, conflict. And while I hope we don't, we can minimize the amount of conflict in our lives, and with that being whatever it is, whatever form that takes in our lives. But if we can kind of have this idea, and certainly what I'm going to do, is look for more ways that my life can be anti-fragile. And in fairness, an awful lot of what I do is quite anti-fragile. Well, not necessarily anti-fragile, it's definitely not fragile, in that my routine for the most part is exactly the same within this apocalypse that it was before the apocalypse. I'm still doing more or less everything I was doing. Doing a bit more than I was. I'm doing more videos, trying to interact with more people on social media, because that's part of what I want to do to during this time, to communicate, reach out, make sure everyone's happy. As I said before, try to inject a bit of positivity, slip it in under the door, unbeknownst to everyone. Just try and raise people's spirits, because I think it's important that if you're in a place that you can do that you should do that. And the way you see all the bands, doing gigs from their homes and all that, they don't have to do it. And I think some of them, you could have a cynical look and say some of them are doing it for some sort of, reward or whatever it is in the future or whatever. But some of them are doing, I think, just because they enjoy the community, and they want to foster the community and make people feel part of the whole thing. And I think if, even in my kind of small, kind of microcosm community type thing, I think, I have an ability or a kind of a place where I can bring a wee bit of positivity. So I think it's my duty to do so. But kind of my life, I've been kind of over the last while, I've been trying to make it, in a sense, as self-sufficient as I could be. And a lot of that I've spoke before is about, rather than trying to build things up, is to kind of see what I can do without. You know, rather than trying to increase my income, it's like, let's see where I can, you know, not spend so much money. And that's kind of another way of becoming a bit kind of anti-fragile and stuff like that. But yeah, the hard bit, I suppose, in all of this is then always, you know, not, you know, feeling the need that your dreams might be taken away from you or that type of thing. So it's easy then to give up the diets. It's easy to give up your meditation practice. It's easy to give up the yoga. It's easy to not see a future. And that's another thing that you should kind of look at, in the kind of form of look to the advantage, but also to become a bit more anti-fragile. And it's just continue to do your things as much as you can. And, you know, with the hope that things are going to work out and that the future will be bright and stuff like that. So ultimately, that's a kind of a very rambly. I mean, all these videos are rambly. I don't know why I constantly apologize. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. But to look for the advantage in the situation, even if it doesn't feel like there could be any advantage. If you, I suppose, then ask the question: if I had to have an advantage in this situation, what could it be? Which gives you a kind of an allowance. Then kind of look around to see where you can be a bit more anti-fragile in your life going forward, so that if another apocalypse happens or things don't work out the way you want, or society changes or people changes, that you're still able to work in such a way that it's not as reliant on other things around you, outside factors, that you kind of become as self-sufficient as you can. Be that, an example I said was that rather than trying to increase the money, your income, you look at your expenses or anything, you know, around that. How you know, again, the other thing of one kind of thing is gone. So printing stuff, can't print the decks, can't print the books. Digital books, offer them in a different kind of way. That's what I have for you today. That's the best. Please, if you have any kind of questions I could answer, or if there's any topics you'd like me to talk about or anything, please give me kind of ideas on what I can do, so I can continue doing these daily videos. So, good people of the internet, be safe. Please be safe. You know, try and do it so that we don't end up losing our exercise privileges and stuff. You know, just be kind of. Well, I'm not saying don't, you know, do whatever you want to do. You're within the kind of thing, like there's a whole kind of need for people to, on Twitter there was like about people narking, or people, you know, being a rat and telling the authorities about, you know, people not being 2 meters apart. I'm saying, like, I'm not saying, you know, I'm not going down. I'm not going to report any of it. But like, you know, to think that your actions do have a greater kind of wider thing to it. Anyway, be well, look after yourself, and may our best days be ahead. And I will talk to you tomorrow.